On today's episode, I want to talk to you about how you need to experience 1,000 tiny deaths if you want to have the marriage that you dream of. I'm excited to tell you more. All right, so I promise this is the last time I'm going to talk about the conference I went to a few weeks ago, but this is really relevant. I had a really weird experience. So one of the speakers at the conference, his name is Garrett White, and he coaches men. And as you know, there were, if you listen to the podcast regularly, there were thousands and thousands, probably about 6,000 people, a little over 5,000 people at this conference. And Garrett was on stage talking, and there's this huge, 200-foot LED screen and these projectors and lights, and it was like a very high production value event. And as he's talking on stage, he decides he's going to go out into the audience and start coaching people. And so for the first couple of minutes, he coaches this guy in the very front section. Then he gets on the microphone and says, all right, now I want to work with somebody else. I'm going to work back towards the back of the room. And he starts walking. And I looked up at the same moment that he looked over his shoulder, and we locked eyes. And he's like, I found my next candidate. And I was like, oh no. And he ended up walking right up to me and having me stand up. If you're watching on video, I'll put the picture of me standing up in front of 6,000 people up on the screen. But I'm standing there in front of the entire audience, all of the attendees at this conference. And this man starts to coach me and talk to me about my business and my life and what it is that I need to do to grow. And I learned this really, really valuable lesson. Essentially, what he said is, after he learned kind of what my goals are, and my goals are to measurably lower the divorce rate, to rid the world of mediocre love. I do not have small goals. My goal is to have an impact on the world. My goal is to impact your marriage. If you're listening or watching right now, there is nothing more important to me. I wake up every morning thinking about you. I think about what is something that I could teach, or something that I could share, or a tool that I could offer you, or a principle that I could give you that will make your life and your marriage better. It's what I obsess over. And my hope is that if I serve you enough, you'll invite your friends or your family to participate and to learn as well. And that as I continue to serve and give and show up as a reliable resource to help you have a better relationship, that I'll be able to affect more lives and leave a legacy, leave an impact on this world, and change the trajectory of people's lives and people's relationships. It's a big goal. It is not something small that I'm going after. And one of the things he said is, the person that you need to become in order to have the impact you want to have and make the difference that you want to make would fire the version of you that exists today. And I was like, oh, that's really interesting. I definitely have to undergo a lot of growth if I want to have the impact that I'm aiming for, that I'm striving towards. And that means that the version of me that exists right now needs to die off. There are parts of myself, there are habits that I have, there are ways that I show up in the world, ways that I deal with conflict, ways that I organize my day, ways that I manage my resources, that if they don't change, I'm not going to accomplish my goals. And so I need to experience what is essentially 1,000 tiny deaths. I need to kill off the pieces of myself that are not helping me to accomplish the goals that I've set out for myself, both in business and in my marriage and in the other facets of my life, if I want to achieve my dreams. And that's interesting. It's a really interesting thought. It's a really interesting thought that the version of you that exists needs to die off, in a sense, in order to create space for something new to sprout. It's kind of like pruning a hedge or pruning a bush. If you've ever grown a rose bush, roses are beautiful, but if you leave them unattended, they get out of control, they grow all over the place, and then what happens is you get a lot more thorns than you do roses. But every year, if you trim back your rose bushes, I remember my grandma used to do this. Every year she'd trim back her rose bushes until they were these teeny tiny little nubs. But every year they would grow back and they would become these big, beautiful flowers. And sometimes in your life, what you need to do is prune yourself. You need to cut off the excess, get rid of the stuff that isn't serving you so you don't become overgrown and so you can grow into the thing that you need to become. So my question for you now is, what part of you needs to die off in order for you to reach the goals and have the life that you want to have? So for me personally, one of the things that I've experienced lately is I have poor eating habits. I really would like to be alive for a long time. I don't want to get preventable diseases like diabetes or heart disease. I don't want to be overweight. I'd like to be in shape. I'd like to be strong so I can play with my kids as they grow up, as my family grows. And that means that I need to change my eating habits. I struggle sometimes with portion control, and I love to eat sugar. I have a major sweet tooth. And when I eat sugar and I'm not conscious, I have a really hard time controlling how much I eat. I end up putting on weight. And that also affects my marriage. It affects my confidence and how I show up with my wife. It affects my self-esteem in some ways. And so one of the things that I know that I need to kill off is this desire to constantly stuff sugar in my face. Not an easy thing to do. A lot of people are really hooked on sugar. They love sugar. It tastes really good. And when you stop eating sugar, you go through withdrawals. It doesn't feel nice. You start to get the sugar cravings. And like, I have been known to go off sugar for a couple of days, and then the cravings get so strong that I literally drive down the street and buy a box of cookies and just binge on them. And I'm just like, oh, and then I get sick, and it's not a good thing. So that part of me needs to die off. And then there's other aspects of my life that need to die off in order for me to become the person that I want to be. I need to be better at my morning routines. I need to be better at how I manage my anxiety. I need to be better with being precise in my speech. I need to be better at showing compassion. That doesn't mean I'm not doing well. It just means the place I'm at right now is not sufficient for me to achieve the goals and become the person that I need to be in order to make the difference in the world that I want to make. So the thought that I want to leave you with in this episode is, what is the piece of you that you are holding on to, that you're keeping alive, that you are nourishing and reinforcing, and the piece of you that if you let it go and you let it die off would create space for a better version of you to exist. And that might impact your marriage in a really great way. Maybe it's the way you talk to yourself. Maybe you have a really crappy voice in your head that just is always constantly dragging you down. And until you change that, it's going to be really hard to show up as your best self inside your relationship. Maybe you have a tendency to be really critical of your partner, and you're a fault finder, and you're much more quick to dole out criticism than you are to dole out praise. And maybe one of the things you need to kill off is your critic. And what you need to do is focus on being a lot more grateful and appreciative of your partner. Maybe something you need to focus on is taking care of your own well-being. Maybe you aren't really good at managing your stress, and you say yes to everything in your life except for the things that will keep you full of energy and keep your mind clear. And what you need to do is start teaching yourself to lean into that discomfort and kill off the version of yourself that is uncomfortable saying no, and learn to say no to the projects and the people who are not as important to you as your family or your marriage or yourself. Maybe the part of you that you need to kill off is the part of you who, for some reason, believes a lie because of maybe the way you were raised or treated as a kid. You believe you can't trust. Like, there's so many things that you believe and stories that you buy into and ways that you show up inside your relationship that prevent you from having what you want. And as long as you cling to that version of yourself and think that there's nothing wrong with you, which is not true, there's something wrong with all of us. Like, people are amazing. Don't get me wrong. You should love who you are, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't also strive to improve yourself. One of my least favorite quotes on the planet is that quote from Marilyn Monroe that says, "If you don't accept me at my worst, then you don't deserve me at my best," or something like that, which is often used as a way for people to behave in the very worst ways, to be on their worst behavior. And that's an excuse. Like, if you love me, you'd hang around and you would accept me. Like, no, that's not how relationships work. Relationships operate on mutual respect and kindness. And you don't get, I'm rambling now, but this is important. You don't get to back up your emotional dump truck and dump all of your unfiltered thoughts and feelings onto your partner and say, that's just the way it is. That's just what I'm thinking and feeling. And you need to either deal with it or you don't deserve me. That is not how an adult relationship works. If that's what you believe, that's probably a version of yourself that you need to kill off. And what you need to do is learn to deal with your emotions in a more healthy and appropriate way, set boundaries, learn how to bring up conversations that are emotional for you in a more respectful and kind way. And as you learn to develop these skills and you learn to kill off the versions of yourself that are creating chaos and pain and discomfort in your life, what you're going to find is that you grow into the person that you need to be in order to have the relationship and the life that you want to have. So don't be afraid to die the 1,000 tiny deaths. It's painful, it's uncomfortable. It requires us to admit that we're wrong sometimes. It requires us to lean into discomfort. But the more we do that and the more we're willing to face the truth of who we are and what we could be if we were only willing to let go of some of these things that we're so attached to that we feel like might be our identity. If we can let go of those things, it opens up this amazing opportunity for rebirth, for renewal, for becoming a new and even better version of yourself. So that is what I am aiming to do over this next year. This next year is going to be the year of 1,000 tiny deaths. And as morbid as that sounds, my goal is to kill off all the versions of myself, the little pieces of myself that aren't helping me get to where I'm trying to go. And my hope is that as I cut off that dead weight, and as I let go of those things that are holding me back and take the rocks out of my backpack, I'll be able to move forward even faster and serve you with even more generosity and be more helpful and hopefully impact even more marriages. So if you appreciate this message and you're on board, I would love to hear from you. Shoot me an email. It's nate@growthmarriage.com. And let me know, what is the tiny death you'd like to experience in the next couple of weeks? What's the thing inside you that you need to let go of, the thing that might be holding you back, that you're committed to letting go of so that you can have the life and the relationship you want? Hope you have an amazing week, and I'll talk to you again soon. If you just walked up to a stranger in the street right now and said, "Hey, what do I need to do to make sure that my relationship withstands the test of time, that I have an amazing, amazing relationship?" I guarantee you, one of the first things they would say is go on dates together. Everybody knows it. You got to go on dates if you want to have an extraordinary relationship. But if you're like most people, your dating life might have taken a bit of a hit lately. Maybe you're not going on as many dates as you were when you first met, or maybe the dates that you are going on are a little bit boring. Maybe you feel like you're stuck in a bit of a rut and you're just kind of doing the same old thing over and over again. If that's the case, I have a gift for you. If you go to getfreedates.com, I am going to send you 5 free dates. Once a week, you're going to get a date for the next 5 weeks, and that date is going to include a game plan. I'm going to send you amazing activities. I'm going to send you links to products and games that you can play together. I'm going to send you treats that you can make together or that you can buy and enjoy that you probably haven't ever had before. I'm going to send you conversation starters that are questions or topics of conversation. They're going to make sure that this date is a connecting experience, that you laugh, that you have fun, and that you feel more connected by the end of the date than you did when you began. That is what dating is all about. It's not about the boring routine. It's about implementing some novelty, some surprise, some excitement, and getting to know your partner on a much deeper level. And I am going to send you 5 of those dates. All you have to do is go to getfreedates.com, type in your name and email address, and I'll send you 1 date every week for 5 weeks. I want you to have an amazing relationship, and I want you to continue to date each other, and this is my way of helping you out. So just go to getfreedates.com and sign up.